Time story by Jean Abbott on
BAYHILLNEWSNETWORK.
This is Douglas over to Bridgman. Bridgman, of course! Oh, this is going to be a penalty! Yes, it is a penalty!
Yeah, dog. That's how the college kick off sports this year. With some serious football action. Six-a-side challenge, selection series, then the mouth-watering invitational football championship. Netball could be next, then T10 cricket to end off semester one.
When stars align, greatness outshines all hatred in space and time. So still we rise, with grace and with faith in the morning.
Boy, wait, I can't make it. Cause Lamont Greg will solve off semester 2 and see defense his table tennis title before the hardcourt ballers and smashers do their thing in basketball and volleyball.
Road relay heats and track and field finals will take us up to the finish line, while a football tour, a cricket trip, and sports awards decorate the action-packed calendar. This is the real thing! Sports 2025 to 2026 at the SVG Community College.
I don't want to hear, don't give me that, you are to pay. You are to pay. Put some respect on me name. I don't want to hear, don't give me that, you are to pay. You are to pay for them.
It's the Vin Abbott Show with news, views, and interviews. The music in the mix on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Kankadi Radio.
You can now order your roti skins from Des Tasty Treats and Roti Skins at telephone 1784-528-2979 or pick up Des Tasty Treats and Roti Skins at Randy's Supermarket. More products are coming soon from Des Tasty Treats and Roti Skins.
October is Menopause Awareness Month, a time to honor the journey, embrace the change, and amplify the conversation. On Sunday, October the 5th, you're invited to the Meno Makeover, a powerful, engaging session on Zoom.
We got it going on. We got it, yeah, we got it going on. We got it, yeah, we got it going on. We got it, yeah, we got it.
Let's talk about menopause, but with grace, knowledge, and purpose, because this season of life deserves understanding, not silence. Mark the date, join the conversation. Let's redefine the narrative together.
In other news, citizens across SVG are experiencing fever-like symptoms. Doctors have attributed this rare flu-like symptom to the highly anticipated football activities being carried out by the SVG Community College, dubbed football fever.
Granddaddy used to tell me one day I'll be great. Since then I spent every waking moment trying to make a way for it.
Boy, it's like I get fever. The SVG Community College football fever.
September 26th, get ready for the start as we test our skill and physical fitness in the 2025 Six-a-Side Knockout Challenge.
No giving up in this chest of mine. This the heart of a champion. The heart of a champion. Oh, oh.
Show us if you've got what it takes to rep your division during our Interfaculty Selection Series from September 30th. Then, don our colors with pride, determination, and passion against all others in what is expected to be a tantalizing 2025 SVG Community College Invitational Football Championship, kicking off from October 8th. Finally, we go into extra time with the SVG Community College Football Tour, January 3rd to 5th, 2026.
This thing ya become so popular. If you see it, you don't need binoculars.
Make us part of your plan. Join the football caravan. Whether you're a player or a fan, it's all about the 2025 SVG Community College Football Fever.
No giving up in this chest of mine. This the heart of a champion. The heart of a champion.
BAYHILL News Network presents Inside Health, 30-minute program in which we explore the human body and functions. We'll will share real life stories and the latest in medical science as we look at related diseases, conditions, and determinants of health that affect quality of life. So join me, Vin Abbott, on Wednesday evenings from 8:30 for Inside Health on Bayhill News Net, also on KincadiRadio.info.
Hi, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? Welcome to this week's edition of Inside Health. Trust all is well with you and yours. And thanks for allowing us into your space, into your domain at this time. That word space is going to resurface again in tonight's program. My name is Vin Abbott, your host in the studio of Kankadi Radio, Toronto, Canada, with Monty Cupid, our producer, chief engineer in the studio of the Hill News Network on St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And tonight, yes, we'll be hearing St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or SVG, again. But just to remind you, Inside Health is a radio magazine health information program hot on Wednesday evenings on KincadiRadio.info and BayHillNews.net simultaneously. Inside Health takes a look at the human body, the different parts, functions, and conditions and diseases that affect performance. We take a look at strategies re possible solutions. In this regard, we pay close attention to the determinants of health, all those factors with which we were born, we grow, live, and age. We do not diagnose nor prescribe. As needed, though, we make referrals. This week, the heat is on. Yes, the heat is on. So let's begin. Friends, on our recent short visit to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in addition to some wonderful social moments with family and friends, including Monty Cupid. So I'm drinking some what I thought was a high room there in the heat of the moment, in the heat, the middle of the day in Kingstown. But I was wrong. It was actually what is called not Tyrone beer. It was bitter lemon. I just needed Monty a little bit. But yes, we got a painful reminder that some surfaces like concrete and asphalt retain heat better, or should I say, much, much more than others, say grass, mulch, and so on. We know that, right? But hey, we were home for the funeral celebration of life of our dear one, Ruthie Franklin, out of Georgetown. Once again, we take this opportunity to extend condolence to her family and the many whose lives she touched in so many different ways over the years. As sad as it was, it felt good being amongst relatives, friends, familiar faces, and home folks. That was despite the heat in the church or the sanctuary, the gospel assembly there in Georgetown, due to a power outage which occurred just before the commencement of the service. Power returned just before Pastor Calvert Williams delivered the sermon. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Monty, the Bayhill News Network, and his team for using your magic. Yes, still being able to stream the entire celebration. Thank you, Monty. You never cease to amaze me. All of us at Kankadi Radio and our listeners. And thanks to all for greetings, words of encouragement and gratitude, radio programs, and that we do, yes, on Nice Radio, Healthy Vibes on Saturday mornings, this program here, Inside Health, and other programs that we do, um, virtually. The journey continues, I can assure you, with God's help. Friends, you're listening to Inside Health. And I'm Ben Abbott, your host in the studio of Kankadi Radio Canada with Monty Capella, our chief engineer down there on St. Vincent and Grenadines. So let's get back to heat and surfaces. Heat in the place. Friends, this is not a critique or anything of that sort about SVG. It's just some observations landscaped against, you know, inside health. While on SVG, we had to visit Kingstown to conduct some business. For those of you who do not hail from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Kingstown is the capital. We visited 4 times at different times of day, early in the morning, midday, late afternoon. At all times, the heat was unbearable, particularly at street level. That sensation came about primarily because of the excessive heat that was burning up Mother Earth and the physical nature of Kingstown. Friends, I knew it wasn't about me only. I also knew that other places around the world were experiencing excessive heat thanks to climate change, undoubtedly. The theme was the same in all conversations that we had with folks we encountered. At times, actually, I had to cool off, so to speak, in some business places and government offices equipped with AC. Sounds familiar, friends? Sounds familiar? Let's continue. Let's continue, my friends. You see, asphalt and concrete warm up faster than surfaces like mulch and grass, so their temperature and that of the air just above them is often much, much hotter than their surroundings. We felt it. I wasn't walking barefooted, so I could feel it on my feet, that like we used to do in Georgetown when we were kids, when the asphalt, traveled up, with the tide coming from Trinidad and Tobago, from the Pitch Lake, from Labray and things like that, up to Georgetown. And when we went on the beach or the bayside, if not being careful, we actually landed on the black sand. So asphalt and black sand, you can imagine how awful that was. But our bodies felt it walking through Kingstown. The heat was excessive. Now just imagine, with asphalt and concrete warming up, with the air around it warming up as well. Imagine that happening over the entire expanse of a bustling, hustling city, with all those pavements, the bricks, all those cars in Kingstown, those vehicles up and down Kingstown. People seem not to want to walk the way we used to walk years ago. Hot roofs, concrete facades, yards and yards, perhaps miles in some cases around the city, of sidewalk, pavement, concrete, asphalt. Just imagine. The truth is, these surfaces allow a considerable amount of heat to build up, and it ends up in a very real phenomenon known as the urban heat island. Friends, the urban heat island effect is well documented, is a well documented occurrence seen in small cities. You might wonder if I'm talking about a big city. No. The research, the documentation shows that urban heat island is an occurrence seen in most cities, small and large, causing causing downtown areas, that is, to get as much as 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than the surrounding areas, surrounding suburbs. You can test it for yourselves, my friends, if you doubt me. Check it out tomorrow. The heat in Kingstown, downtown Kingstown, in the shopping area, city center, the heat is more than suburban areas in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, suburban areas around Kingstown, say in Montrose, around the Botanic Gardens and things like places like that. Beyond all of the problems it can cause in recording weather observations, there's a hidden health hazard in this artificial heat. There's a hidden health hazard in this artificial heat. In cities like Kingstown or other cities, small or large, we tend to have a lot of elders living. We tend to have impoverished citizens, many of whom can't afford simple cooling devices like fans or air conditioning. This is a phenomenon that exists in cities. I walked through Kingstown, and just about every 2 or 3 minutes, or perhaps less than that, we encountered persons who were there on the streets begging alms. We encountered vendors in the heat trying to eke out a living in the sun. Some of them under shelters, under galleries and so on, but with no heat, no cooling devices around them. Again, this is a city phenomenon that hit me hard when I visited Kingstown. Again, this is not a critique, just observations, my friends. Because if you were to ask me, I'll tell you that General St. Vincent and the Grenadines looks good. Beautiful buildings, a lot of vehicles, people hustling and bustling. In the mix of all that, some people who are walking the zigzag to deal with the heat and the strain of all of that. People seem to want to do well, but the heat, there's a correlation between the concrete, the asphalt, and the lack of green space. I'll get to that in a while. The urban heat island effect can injure or kill a disproportionate number of people or make them, yes, ill who live in cities compared to residents of the surrounding areas. And we have spoken on this program before about, um, you know, heat-related illnesses like cramps and heat exhaustion, heat stroke being the most dangerous of them all, which can be fatal. Won't get into that tonight. Time won't allow. Friends, the truth is, there's really no green space in Kingstown. Botanic Gardens, maybe. Yes, it is. Is it accessible on a day-to-day basis? Would folks leave Kingstown, downtown Kingstown, go to the Botanic Gardens to cool off? Would public servants get out of office at midday, and go up to Botanic Gardens? How practical is that? Not really practical. Yeah? Botanic Gardens. Friends, climate change is real. The associated dangers for us are real, wherever located on planet Earth. But for us in small island states, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Barbados, wherever, the dangers, the risk are multiplied or manifold. The fact that we are, amongst other factors, that we have no green spaces in our major shopping centers, not only Kingstown. I notice we observe what's happening at Arnesville as well, E.T. Joshua Airport, a busy upcoming area, shopping area. The fact that we are cutting down trees and not planting back. As a matter of fact, cutting down trees when we didn't have to do so. Of course, there should be plans in place by planners to say to your building, you have a tree there that is seemingly so many years old, protect it. Let the architect, the designer, the planner, whoever design your plan, weave that into the property development for your house or your building or your business or whatever. It doesn't take a lot to do that. The fact that we continue with other unsound practices that are damaging to our natural environment, those are contributing to what we're experiencing now. Those are verifiable facts, in my view. And those facts, in my view, should trigger urgent action. I have some suggestions, I have some ideas around how we can make Kingstown greener. I'll give you one example. Where I used to work there in the Ministry of Health, above the old the post office, where the Ministry of Health is located now. There's a place there. There's a platform or balcony there overlooking I think the new bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, bank of SVG, I think it is called, what used to be the Barclays Bank when I was around on Homeland. But there was a big area there with asphalt. And I made a suggestion years ago. We could have used that area we could have had some plant boxes, or I saw some of them around Kingstown Great. But we could have used that same area to plant herbs and shrubs and other things like that. Have some trees there controlled and all of that to provide cooling effect. Also use the same area to do some education around herbs, the importance of using herbs in our diet and things like that. It is still there. Bare asphalt. Can imagine the heat coming out of that, emanating from that. Just one suggestion. In all of this, my friends, again, like we said, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a beautiful place. But there's work to do, especially in capital city Kingstown. In this regard, we're really encouraging our residents to attend a mapping exercise. That will be, if you're looking for more information, if you're looking for a way to be motivated, if you have questions and so on, there'll be a mapping exercise session that'll be happening tomorrow, actually. I just got information from Dr. Andrew Simmons, our consultant on all things environmental. And let me see if I can pull this up for you and share it with you. I don't know if you got it Monday, but if you didn't, I'll share with you after the program. Let me see if I can pull this up. Okay, here we go. So, friends, if you have interest, if you're concerned about the heat that we're feeling now, now the earth is warming up, we're going to be feeling more heat and more heat. Kingstown doesn't have any green space, and we need to take action. And we need to draw on all those persons, the expertise we have at our disposal, folks in the Ministry of the Department of Forestry and other places, folks who work in the Botanic Garden, other persons, and Dr. Andrew Simmons is there. A wealth of resources, of information and resources. So what is happening? Climate risk mapping research expands to Garifuna communities in North Windward communities. Let us read. And thank you, Dr. Drew, for sharing this with us. GEMS is collaborating with the Sandy Bay Heritage Development Organization to expand its climate risk mapping research initiative in Sandy Bay and neighboring communities in North Windward. This initiative follows the successful implementation of the first phase of the research project implemented by GEMS in Stubbs, Diamonds, Elms, and Victoria Village on southeast of mainland St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 2024. A climate risk mapping workshop will be held at the Seventh day Adventist Church on Thursday, 4th September 2025, and that will be between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. Dr. Andrew Simmons, Director of Sustainable Development, GEMS, will facilitate this workshop, which will engage residents in identifying local climate threats and then exploring community driven solutions to address these threats. Other activities include one, a survey to assess how householders' perceptions of the impacts of climate change on their communities, two, discussion on the effectiveness of climate early warning information services, and three, a focus group discussion. The North Windward research is coordinated by community activist Pat Fraser of Sandy Bay Heritage Development Organization with the goal of strengthening resilience and empowering communities most vulnerable to climate related risk. Let me take a pause there. We ran into Pat at one of the restaurants in Kingstown when we were there. That place, well, that used to be the Bounty, and it was really nice to really connect with Pat. Though pretty brief, Pat and I got together for a little bit there at the Sandy Bay Anglican School. I was there as a teacher, a student teacher, or whatever it was called. Pat was a great teacher, and we worked together. I think I was teaching Junior 3, as it was called then, and Pat was my assistant while she was in training. Pat, it was nice to see you. I'm so happy that you're still involved in community activism and community work. So yes, Pat will be. This is organized in collaboration with that organization. Dr. Rory Kirby Straker, professor at Wake Forest University, North Carolina, USA, will observe the climate risk mapping process. And in relation to Dr. Kirby Straker, the researcher from Wake Forest University will be in Sandy Bay carrying out interviews until Friday, the 12th of September. So that mapping exercise will be held tomorrow, the Seventh Adventist Church in Sandy Bay between 2 and 5 p.m. And Dr. Uh, Kirby Straker from Wake Forest University will be in Sandy Bay carrying out interviews until Friday, 12th September. So, friends, if you have questions around climate change or you're concerned about some of the things we have talked about, and we have just scratched the surface as regards the issues, there's an opportunity for you to really go out and meet Dr. Andrew Simmons, talk with Pat, talk with Dr. Uh, Kirby Straker, and she'll be there until the 12th to get more information so that you become more empowered as an individual, perhaps at the family level and community level, to really do whatever we can to mitigate the challenges we are facing as a result of climate change. There are many things that we can do, and I encourage you to go out and be part of this exercise. Dr. Simmons, thank you so much for sharing this piece of information with us. After all, we are a green country, blessed with fertile soil, an abundance of water. Yes, abundance of water, fertile soil, abundance of water, fresh and salt, waiting to be used for sustainability today, tomorrow, and years ahead. While on St. Vincent and the Grenadines for that short period and short visit, we had the opportunity to spend the night, an afternoon night, on Oya, a place that I visited a lot. I stayed there when my sister was the nurse there, the district nurse, Venet Abbott. Most people thought she was my mother. So wherever she went, I was there. I loved her so much. Gone to the great beyond. And I love Oya. Had to go back there on the hill where the clinic is, looking out at the mountain range, so to speak, the ridge. It's a sort of a dropping view. You're in awe when you look at the ridge when you're at the clinic at uptown. Oh yeah, beautiful. The sunset, the moonlight. You talk about salt pond. Had the opportunity to swim in the pond, with with Jean and my dear cousin Marcy Sutherland. We had the pond for ourselves at 6:30 in the morning. Yes, that's beautiful. That wasn't enough. From there, went to one of the falls where the bridge between that river between Ovia and the Rock Gutter where those seven angels perished. Yes, and there were a couple falls there. Beautiful. That's early in the morning. After an hour in Salt Pond to the small spring to get natural water to cool down. Beautiful. And even that, the same evening we arrived in Ovia, we went to the Ovia Falls, just beyond the abandoned derelict Arrow factory. A beautiful place to go that is not yet on the calendar of Parks and Recs, and I sincerely hope that it will soon be on because the path to the falls is in desperate need of well securing and making sure that it's safe for visitors to get across safely. I can tell you a story I had getting across there on a wall from the old canal that from which water traveled from the fall to the turbine to prevent our roots to help in the process and so on. I won't do that again. I have photographs. Monty probably I'll share some of them with you. But that site I was told is even more popular now than the Salt Pond. It needs to be on the Parks and Recs calendar. But we need to fix the road, the path there to make it safe. God forbid something should happen to a visitor to that fall. But just think about that. All the wonders, the sea, the salt, the rivers, the fresh, the mountain, the green, you know, and the people. Not only that, still people are still dwelling in our road. We got the Madongo Bakes early in the morning after all that, all that. So could you imagine if we were to really make use of our soil, our waters, you know, to make us sustainable as a people, as a nation, to build resilience and to empower us. Just imagine, just imagine, just imagine. Friends, let's take a break. When we turn, we'll talk a wee bit about blackouts. Nancy?
October is Menopause Awareness Month, a time to honor the journey, embrace the change, and amplify the conversation. On Sunday, October the 5th, you're invited to the Meno Makeover, a powerful, engaging session on Zoom.
We got it going on. We got it, yeah, we got it going on. We got it, yeah, we got it going on. We got it, yeah, we got it.
Let's talk about menopause, but with grace, knowledge, and purpose, because this season of life deserves understanding, not silence. Mark the date, join the conversation. Let's redefine the narrative together.
This is Douglas over to Bridgman. Bridgman, of course! Oh, this is going to be a penalty! Yes, it is a penalty!
Yeah, dog. That's how the college kick off sports this year. With some serious football action. Six-a-side challenge, selection series, then the mouth-watering Invitational Football Championship. Netball will be next, then T10 cricket to end off semester one.
When stars align, greatness outshines all hatred in space and time. So still we rise, with grace and with faith in the morning.
Boy, wait, I who can't make it. Cause Lamont Greg will solve off semester 2 and see defense's table tennis title before the hardcore ballers and smashers do their thing in basketball and volleyball.
Road relay heats and track and field finals will take us up to the finish line, while a football tour, a cricket trip, and sports awards decorate the action-packed calendar. This is the real thing. Sports 2025 to 2026 at the SVG Community College.
I know what to hear, don't give me that you are to pay. You are to pay, put some respect on me name. I know what to hear,
can now order your roti skins from Des Tasty Treats and Roti Skins at telephone 1784-528-2979 or pick up Des Tasty Treats and Roti Skins at Randy's Supermarket. More products are coming soon from Des Tasty Treats and Roti Skins.
It's the Vin Abbott Show with news, views, and interviews. The music in the mix on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Kankadi Radio. Looking for a place to relax with natural cool breeze and friendly surroundings? Then check the Bay Hill Tree Bar, located at Bay Hill Cane Garden. We have everything a bar will have. We also sell Shell 20 pounds cooking gas at the Bay Hill Tree Bar. BAYHILL News Network presents Inside Health, 30-minute program in which we explore the human body and functions. We'll share real-life stories and the latest in medical science as we look at related diseases, conditions, and determinants of health that affect quality of life. So join me, Vin Abbott, on Wednesday evenings from 8:30 for Inside Health on BAYHILL News Net, also on KankadiRadio.info.
Well, welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. And yes, you're listening to Inside Health. And just if you're wondering if this is about health, of course it is. Health is not just about medical services, hospitals, and things like that. As we are, and we're always careful to say we focus on the determinants of health, all those factors with which we were born, we grow, we live, we age that affect us. And yes, our physical environment, access to money, food, entertainment, socialization, connection, all those things help to make us healthy and wealthy and wise. And we are loaded on St. Vincent and Grenadines with all those natural factors, the environment, the physical environment, the water, salt and fresh, the mountains, the people, and all to make us healthy and well. So I am always mindful to remind you that when we talk about health on Inside Health, we're looking at all those factors that impact health and well-being. Right? So welcome back. And let me say a special good evening again to all my folks, my relatives in Owe and Sandy Bay, in Georgetown, wherever you are, the Rosses as well, the Sutherlands. Let me say a special good evening to Chef and John, Senator John, my husband. It was really a pleasure traveling with you, being out there with my friends from years ago, Errol and Henry and Nono and all these guys there in Owea. It's a place that I love dearly. I'm sure you can tell that, right? And it's really a beautiful place, my friend. Just waiting. I'll be mindful here because some of the folks don't want me to say a place waiting to be discovered. It was discovered a long time ago by the people there. Doesn't want to be spoiled. Doesn't want to be spoiled. One, they wanted to be developed for them to use, for the children, grandchildren, folks are yet unborn, and for visitors to come in and enjoy, respecting their hard work over the years and all of that. And that is really not a big ask, if you ask me. Friends, we talked about that blackout or that power outage that took place during the funeral, just before the ceremony celebration of life started there in Georgetown, the funeral of Ruthie Franklin, a dear one. And we talked about how Monty and his team were able to use their magic to stream it, and many folks gave us feedback. Thank you. Thank you. I remember one night on St. Vincent Grenadines, there was an island-wide blackout. I want to talk a wee bit about, blackouts, or what we can do to help us through blackouts, especially at this time of year during the hotter, you know, months, during summer, so to speak. Right? The summer months are sometimes called the blackout season, as demands on the grid heighten so, and very often outdated infrastructure overheat and shut down frequently. And against, so these things happen. They happen all over the world. But when they happen, what can we do? Here are some tips we want to share with you before we leave the program this evening. Yes, what to do when the lights go down and how to prepare before they do. So, one suggestion, the first suggestion is to turn it off. It is suggested by the experts to turn off everything that was going on when the blackout began to avoid taxing the electrical grid or the grid, yes, when power comes back on. It is suggested that we leave one light, yeah, or radio on as an indicator for when the power is restored. The experts in this area are suggesting as well to use an uninterruptible power supply, UPS for short, for any computers or critical electronics in your home, to give you a way to power your devices even when the power is off and protect against power surges. That is so important. I fell victim to to not having one before, resulting in me having, some equipment in the studio damaged. So again, if you're loaded with computers and things like that, it is suggesting that you use an uninterruptible power supply called a UPS for the computers or critical electronics in your home to give you a way to power your devices even when the power is off and protect against power surges. That makes sense, doesn't it? UPS. Use surge protectors, not to be confused with a simple power strip to protect any electronics not connected to a UPS. Yes, power surges, yeah, power surge, surge protectors are different to just an ordinary strip. Again, my suggestion in this regard is to speak to somebody in IT, an electrician, or somebody to guide you as regards what you should buy, what would be ideal for you, given the frequency in which we are having power outages. Another suggestion is to phone it in. What does this mean? Well, if you use cordless phones for your landline, it is suggested that we buy a regular corded model that doesn't require power. One of those old time phones. Well, if you're like me, right, I have one. I still believe in my landline. And why this makes sense because these usually keep working after the power goes out and are still the best way to reach emergency services. Another suggestion is to keep cash available. Yes, keep cash available if you have cash, either locked in a small safe or hidden away in a lockbox. ATMs and cash registers won't be functional during a blackout. Makes a lot of sense. And the final suggestion as regards blackouts is to juice up. Stock up on batteries if you are in a blackout prone area. By now, we're in hurricane season, so we're hoping by now, at this juncture, most of you would have backup batteries and things like that. Things like also like LED candles, as against regular candles, wax and things like that you have to light, which can cause fires and so on if they're blown down and so on and so on. And we have a lot of LED candles around the place. They're easily accessed and so on. Use that. Yes, so juice up. Stock up on batteries if you're in a blackout prone area and consider investing, again, if you have the cash, in a solar or gas power generator. When using a generator, be sure to secure it with a cable lock or chain or whatever way you can to secure it, as it may be sought after. Yes, it may be sought after. There may be prying eyes walking around the neighborhood, sizing up things. It might be sought after by people who don't have one of their own. Do you want me to repeat that? In simple language, secure your generator if you have one. Simple, plain language. In all of this, when there's a blackout, if it during time awake hours, have fun while you wait with games, puzzles, cards, books, whatever, crafts, whatever. If you're in Oya and it's moonlit night, well, hey, get out there and have fun in the moonlight. Or I remember when we had the blackout here in Toronto some years ago, we used the opportunity to get to know our neighbors. We were living there for that place where it happened for a couple of years, well, 2 3 years, and we didn't really know our neighbors. And everybody was out with their barbecue grill doing their stuff, and we got to know each other a little bit more. Use the opportunity when there's a blackout, right? Especially if it's a safe moon at night and all of that, to really get to know your neighbors, to talk, to socialize. If it's early enough, and in the evening after work, you can always check out the beach. Or if it's during the day, we still have some trees around the place. Traveling some time ago, I saw some guys hanging out by the roadside under some trees and things like that. Beautiful. This is where this is where it comes in useful to plant. Well, don't cut down trees if you don't have to, and if you have to, replant as soon as possible. So there are things you can do to cool off. You can cool off during a blackout once it's safe, especially during the day. Friends, blackouts do happen for a host of reasons, right? I'm not going to guess here and postulate and things like that. They happen. And when they happen, we should be prepared. Simple as that. I like the whole I there. Again, I personally believe in getting to know your neighbor a little bit more. We have become a sort of an insular people. We are behind, we're slave to devices and things like that. We don't talk to our neighbors, we don't know our neighbors and things like that. Eh, if it happens again during the day and it's safe or whenever, get to know your neighbor, hang out, have a little, roast some breadfruit or whatever, or grill, put on some chicken, get some stuff out of the fridge or freezer, and do a little thing for a few, houses around you. The final thing I want to say as regards the visit to St. Vincent and Grenadines, it was a real pleasure to be back. Real pleasure. One of the things that we observed, that's Jean and I, that the hospitality is is just beautiful to behold. Everywhere we went, whether we were walking under the gallery, passing by vendors, or we went into offices, people will still be saying, always hanging out in the balcony, the veranda where we were hanging. People always passing, good morning, onto the offices, government offices or wherever. Good morning, walking by vendors. Good morning, how are you? That was so pleasing to the ears. You can't do that here in North America unless somebody thinks you want to get involved in some sort of a, distraction, theft or some nonsense like that. It's not nonsense, it happens for real. But and so that was beautiful. That was really enriching for me to know that we still are hospitable people. We greet each other. We know we have manners. We look out for each other. I hope this can permeate all areas of our lives. Again, talking about determinants of health. We need to get back to the roots. All those things that made us uniquely Vinci. I did say finally, but there's one point I did make a note of, and I'll end on this note, Manji. When I landed on St. Vincent, when I got to where we were staying, um, I had the opportunity to speak. The first person I spoke with was one Paul St. John's. Christian brother was very much involved, still involved, got on well, and with the gospel festival and all of that. And I had the opportunity, the first person I spoke with outside of the airport, immigration folks and so on, and my folks, was Paul St. John's. I don't know if he's listening. And if he's not, and somebody hears this, I hope they'll really answer him. And I did say to him, I had a conversation with Paul St. John's, and it just sort of paved the way for the rest of my visit. And we talked about essentially many things, but the grace of God and being grateful. And I said to him, I'm the kind of person I'm grateful for small and great mercy. And he reminded me so eloquently and respectfully that we should not categorize the grace of God, His goodness to us, whether small or grace or great. Whatever it is, it's how God intervenes, whether it's small or great, His mercy is what it is. And we should always appreciate the mercies of God. Don't categorize. Sounds as if when you categorize, you're not satisfied with what you got. And I carried that with me throughout my visit to St. Vincent and Grenadines. I'll carry it for the rest of my life. I'm always grateful. I'm always grateful. I believe in gratitude. Thank you all on St. Vincent and Grenadines, my folks, friends, Munty and all. Dougie got into the studio a wee bit at Munty. That's nice radio. Mid um, Spicy Princess Campbell, Natalie for the first time for a few, Adrian, met Spicy at the funeral for a few, Kyle for a few, yet to meet Spicy. But it was a beautiful short visit. I'm grateful. Thank you all for making it a wonderful visit. Again, what we talked about green spaces and all that, not criticism. Like I said, it's good, but there's an underbelly there. There's work to be done, clearly. There's work to be done, believe you me, when it comes to the human development. Monty, on that note, I have to say goodnight. Friends, thank you so much. Unfortunately, Jean will not be on this evening. She apologizes for that. Hopefully, she'll be on next week with Old Time Story with Jean. Have a wonderful evening and the rest of the week, my friends. Hope to catch you next week. Love you. Nigar.
Bay Hill News Network presents Inside Health, 30-minute program in which we explore the human body and functions. We'll share real life stories